While Anthony Duclair and Max Tsyplakov have been getting most of the attention, another Islanders player has started the season strong without a lot of fanfare. We'll talk about that and preview tonight's game against the St. Louis Blues. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We have a busy show ahead, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to talk about on a future episode, send us an email. LockedOnIslanders@gmail.com is the address. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. So, it's natural that new players tend to get the most attention when they join the team. That's something different. It's the shiny new toy, so to speak, and deservedly so, I will add. The strong play in the first three games of both Max Tsyplakov and Anthony Duclair has earned plaudits from fans and members of the media and coaches alike. And it's not that those guys can't play even better as the season progresses. They can. But, these are the new guys. They're off to a solid start, getting the job done, adding something to the mix. Well, I wanted to talk about another player who isn't getting quite the attention that both Tsyplakov and Duclair are getting, but who has also really gotten off to a strong start this year. And that is Alexander Romanov. You look at the numbers, and maybe they don't, stick out as much. You got 3 games for Romanov. He has 1 assist in those 3 games, 4 penalty minutes. He's a -2 plus minus. Does happen to lead the team with 14 block shots and has 6 hits right now, which happens to place him tied for second on the team with Anders Lee and Kyle McLean. And here's the thing. You look at the numbers and they're not like, oh my gosh, that's outstanding. And yet, Romanov quietly, 6 shots on goal in 2 games. Romanov delivering, yesterday, everydayers, if you watched yesterday's show or listened to yesterday's show, who was our Islanders' birthday of the day yesterday? Darius Kasparaitis. And one of the things we said on the show when we talked about Darius Kasparaitis, he wasn't afraid to hit anybody. Darius Kasparaitis would go after, Mark Messier or Brian Leetch if they were playing the Rangers. He would go after whoever the other team's best player was, even though there was sort of this rule that, hey, if you go after the other team's best player, you're going to have to expect that someone is going to possibly retaliate against you. Well, just like Kasparaitis wasn't afraid to hit Messier, Leach, Lemieux, whoever he was playing against. Got to give credit to Alexander Romanov for stepping up and delivering, some hits, including Nathan MacKinnon being a target of some of his hits. Again, you like to see that fearlessness. And you also like to see Romanov, the one assist he had is a really pretty pass that showed great patience and pinpoint accuracy, and it set up a really pretty goal. So I give him credit for that. Leading the team in blocked shots, being a little bit more involved in the offense, picking up the mantle of physicality when, as we also discussed on yesterday's show, there are fewer overtly physical players on this team now that Matt Martin and Cal Clutterbuck are no longer on the roster. So you're dealing with a situation where, Romanov is stepping up and playing well in all facets of the game. And I think you go even a step further over these first three games. Who has Alexander Romanov been paired with most of the time defensively? Well, if you guessed Noah Dobson, you guessed correctly. And let's face it, Noah Dobson, defensively, especially in the first two games, has been out of position and struggling more than any other defenseman on this team. And so, when I see the -2 next to Romanov's name, I'm not saying he doesn't have any blame for that at all, but I am saying that Alexander Romanov, having to play with Noah Dobson a lot does indeed make it harder for him because he really does, in some respects, have to cover for the defensive lapses of Noah Dobson. Now, hopefully, Dauber can clean that up and, cut down on the number of bad plays he's making, be a little more smart in his own zone, positionally sound in his own zone, smarter when he tries to transition from defense to offense. But the fact that Romanov has played well in spite of the struggles in the first two games, especially of his defense partner, I think goes even a step further. So quietly, Alexander Romanov doing all the little things that you want him to do. I mean, look, is Romanov a star? Is he a potential all-star player? Is he going to be making headlines on national publications? Probably not. But he's one of those guys that if he's on your team and you watch what he does on a day-by-day basis, he truly, you appreciate what it is that he can accomplish playing, just a steady, strong, smart, physical, defensive game. And I think gradually we are seeing a little more offense and a little more confidence in his offense creeping into his game, and that is encouraging as well. And keep in mind, while we're at it, that Alexander Romanov, like Noah Dobson, is in a contract year. Romanov is earning $2.5 million this year. Last year of the bridge contract that he signed, he can be a restricted free agent this summer with arbitration rights if Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders organization cannot get a new agreement reached with Romanov. But I'll say it this way. Whether you sign him to a bridge deal and he can't be an unrestricted free agent till 2027, the summer of 2027, or whether you sign him to a longer-term deal, you don't want to lose Alexander Romanov. He has improved each year, and he while he's not going to earn $7, $8 million, $9 million like Noah Dobson potentially could, he's going to be worth 5, 6, something in that range eventually, whether it's this contract or the next contract, because he really has a value to this team. And if he keeps playing basically the way he played in the first 3 games, that value is only going to increase. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We will preview tonight's game against the St. Louis Blues, and you'll also be surprised who's supposed to start in goal for the Islanders in this contest. We'll talk about that and its significance. And oh yes, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who enjoyed what may be the most unique and special year in hockey history. He became, in 1980, the first player to win an Olympic gold medal and a Stanley Cup in the same year. Let's see if you can guess who this player is. It's a pretty easy one, I think. Member of all 4 Islanders Stanley Cup winning teams. We've got that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet, and there's so much to bet on now. Check out the odds, Islander fans, for the game tonight against the Blues. You may want to bet on whether the Islanders will win the game, whether or not Matthew Barzal will get a point. I mean, there are so many different things, so check out all the odds at FanDuel. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So again, some news, and it's not official yet, and keep track of things with me on X. Again, Ice Wars NYR, VSNYI. But the word out of Islanders practice today is that Ilya Sorokin is expected to get the start tonight when the Islanders face the St. Louis Blues in St. Louis. Now, Patrick Waugh said this on Wednesday at practice, but he said he has yet to discuss it with goaltending coach Piero Greco. So it's not official, and obviously, it could change depending on how things go at the morning skate. But here's the big picture of it, okay? The very fact that the Islanders are strongly considering having Ilya Sorokin start back-to-back games after he missed, had off-season back surgery, missed almost all of training camp, did not appear in any of the 6 preseason games, and did not play in either of the first 2 games in the regular season, although he was dressed in those games as the backup goalie. The fact that the Islanders are thinking seriously of playing him tonight is extremely, extremely encouraging. Not as encouraging, maybe, as the fact that we saw how well he played against the Avalanche on Monday. And, Islanders were holding a lead. He stopped 16 shots in the third period alone, only let up 1 goal. That goal was not his fault. A great cross-ice pass. A player left all alone at the far post. Nothing he could have done. The amazing thing is, out of all of the goals, he let in only 2 goals in the game. Neither of those 2 goals were what anyone would consider to be soft goals. So a solid start to the season between the pipes, and then perhaps even better or more encouraging, a very strong, the fact that all that action and all, facing 34, more than 30 shots, it's not slowing him down. He is ready. He is going to be, like, even if they don't start him, even if they're just saying, hey, we think he's going to go, it shows that the back injury at the present time is not a major hindrance. Now, again, if he wakes up, goes to the morning skate Thursday and the back doesn't feel good, obviously that could all change in the blink of an eye. But at the same time, the fact that as of right now, it's all systems go, and that it does not seem that this would be considered a major injury as of now. And look, I know backs are tricky things. You could go a month, a week, a month, 5 years, and feel no pain from a bad back. And then all of a sudden, you don't feel good, and bam, you got a problem, and it comes back. But as of right now, it is just looking extremely good, and it is very encouraging that Ilya Sorokin is most likely going to start tonight's game. And that's not a knock on Semyon Varlamov, okay? Varley is a quality backup goalie. He is, in fact, a goalie who can carry a team for a while at any given time. We saw him do that late last year, down the stretch in the regular season, into the playoffs. Whether Sorokin's back was acting up at that point, or he was just mentally or physically exhausted, or some combination of those factors, Sorokin was clearly not bringing his A game at the end of last season. It just wasn't there. And Varlamov came in, played well, carried this team down the stretch to the playoffs. But at the same time, Semyon Varlamov is no longer a kid, okay? Varley is 36 years old. And while he can carry a team for a week, 2 weeks, over the course of a season, at this stage in his career, it is better for the Islanders and for Semyon Varlamov that he doesn't play 50, 55, 60 games in a season. In fact, I don't even think they want Sorokin to play 60 games in a season. But Varley, for 30 games, maybe 40 games, maybe 45 games, that's great. He could probably handle that and play at a high level and be consistent. But at this stage in his career, expecting Varley to be the number one guy and to play 2 out of every 3 or 3 out of every 4 games, I don't think that's realistic. And long term, I'm less worried about what's going to happen tonight against the Blues, or what's going to happen Saturday against Montreal. All of those things I want to know. But the important thing in my mind is, come March, come April, I'd love to even say come May, will Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov both be available and strong and not physically and mentally exhausted and ready to help this team if they're called upon down the stretch and into the playoffs if the Islanders get there? That is, the long-term health of this team. And Varley has 2 years left on his contract after this season, and Sorokin has 7 years left on his contract after this season. For the next few years, this is likely the duo that we're going to see in between the pipes for the New York Islanders I want to make sure they're ready, healthy, available, and playing at a high level. Or should I just say the highest level they're capable of playing? And hopefully we see that from both goaltenders. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. We will preview tonight's game against the Blues that, as I said, Patrick Roy expects that Ilya Sorokin is the likely starter, but we'll take a look at the Blues and what they look like 4 games into their season. We'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day and a lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks, and that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature on Game Time is the view from your seat. You go on the app and you can see a panoramic view from the seat you want to purchase before you buy the tickets. That way you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. And Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So, you could check out the odds. For example, do you think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? Or that Christian McCaffrey will gain more than 75.5 yards? You could cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. So, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So check out Prize Picks today. I want to thank everybody who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. You can become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Islanders, Blues in St. Louis tonight. Looking forward to this game. And you could find this game on MSG Network, also on ESPN+. It's an 8 o'clock Eastern time start. And the Blues, they're 2-2 right now on the season. Islanders 1-1-1. The Blues, well, they won their first 2 games, both by 1 goal. Then they lost their last 2, beating Seattle and San Jose on the road, losing to Vegas on the road, and then Minnesota at home in their home opener just a couple of nights ago on Tuesday. So they come into this game against the Islanders looking to get back on the winning track. Right now, Jordan Kyrou off to the great start, 2 goals and 6 points in 4 games. Basically 4 other players with point-a-game starts. Philip Broberg, a goal and 3 assists. Justin Falk also. Pavel Buchnevich has 3 goals and an assist, and Robert Thomas has a goal and 3 assists. Jordan Binnington has started 3 of the 4 games, including the last 2, so maybe we will see backup Joel Hofer tonight. Hofer started one game. He is 1-0, but gave up 4 goals on 29 shots in that game, so only an .862 save percentage. Hardly outstanding, but again, it's early, not a lot of trends yet. The lineup for the Blues: Robert Thomas centers Brandon Saad and Jordan Kyrou on the top line. Buchnevich, Zach Bolduc, and Jack Neighbors are the second trio. Third unit is Braden Shen, Dylan Holloway, and Matthew Joseph. And the fourth line is Radek Faksa, Alexei Torpachenko, and Kasperi Kapanen. Now, on defense, the top pair is usually Nick Leddy and Colton Parayko. Leddy a little banged up. He will probably be a game-time decision, so keep an eye out on that, whether the former Islander will be available. Philip Broberg and Justin Falk are the second pair. Ryan Suter still going strong, and Matthew Kessel, they are the third pair. And again, the goalies, Binnington and Hofer. Torrey Krug, Oscar Sundqvist, Alexander Texier, they're all on IR. Nick Leddy listed right now as day-to-day. We'll see if he's able to return to the lineup. We have to see if he's healthy enough to do it. He has played in all 4 games thus far. The power play right now, 25%. That's 12th in the league. Again, very early, tough with the patterns. Penalty kill, 70% effective. That puts them 24th. Again, this is a talented team, a big team, a team that is not easy to beat. They're not elite, but they are kind of like the Islanders, one of those teams that is going to finish somewhere between 6th and 10th in their conference, fight for a playoff spot, and are capable of winning a playoff series, but it would be an upset if they did. On the road, it's not an easy task for the Islanders. Let's hope they can play more like they did the last 2 games and get the job done. And of course, we'll have our full analysis of the game on tomorrow's show. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. I think all of you, most of you probably got this one, but today is the 68th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Ken Morrow. Morrow, a Flint, Michigan native, 6'4", 205, a 4th-round pick by the Islanders in 1976. Spent 4 years at Bowling Green, and then was part of the Miracle on Ice team that won the gold medal at Lake Placid back in 1980. Joined the Islanders after the Olympics, played 18 games for the Islanders, and then was a part of 4 Stanley Cup winning teams in a row. Morrow, everyone talks about Butch Goring being the last piece of the puzzle, and I'm not going to say Butchie wasn't, but Morrow also joined the Islanders late that year, and his addition gave them more defensive stability and ability, and he was a big part of the team's Stanley Cup wins as well. Morrow's injuries did cut short his career. He only played in 550 NHL games, all of them with the Islanders. Never had more than 5 goals in the season, only had 17 goals in his career and 105 points. And yet in the playoffs, 127 games, so, 25% of the number of games he played in the regular season, 11 goals. He was clutch, 33 points. So Morrow, he came up with some really clutch goals. The most memorable, obviously, came in 1984 in Game 5 of that opening round series against the Rangers. But we're not going to talk about that game today because I think we talked about it last year. So for Ken Morrow, April 11th, 1980, preliminary round, Game 3 at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood. Islanders and the Kings, series even up at 1 game apiece. It's a best 3 out of 5. The goalies in this one, Billy Smith and Mario Lazard, the goalie for LA. And in this game, Ken Morrow, our Islanders birthday of the day. The game, Islanders trail 3-1 after 2 goals by Charlie Simmer, assisted by Dave Taylor and Marcel Dion. But in the third, Clark Gillies and Butch Goring scored to tie it. And then in overtime, 6 minutes, 55 seconds in, Our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ken Morrow, a playoff overtime game winner. That makes the Islanders 4-3 winners. They go ahead in the series 2-1. They close it out the following night in LA with a 6-0 win. Ken Morrow, a clutch player, a great defender, a part of the miracle on ice, and now still active in the Islanders organization as a scout. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow with our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Blues and a full preview of Saturday's home game against the Montreal Canadiens. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.